So in today's video, I'm actually analyzing the video of another content creator. In this case, a guy named Jocko Willink. He's a highly decorated Navy SEAL. He's also a force to be reckoned with, a highly educated, highly well-spoken guy, host of his own podcast, and he's been interviewed by countless people. You've probably heard of him, and if for some reason you haven't, you'll definitely be hearing of him very, very soon. But he covers a wide variety of topics on his podcast all over the place, from Navy SEAL stuff, go figure, but he also talks a lot about a concept that I personally love called extreme ownership. And that's basically where anytime you screw up, and we all screw up, instead of having that urge to kind of like make some excuses, maybe kind of defer some of the blame onto other people or just, chalk it up to circumstance, he's talking about taking extreme ownership. You own that shit no matter what. No excuses accepted. If you did it, you own it. In my case, I've got a fairly contentious relationship at this point with my now ex-wife, and it would be easy for me to justify, she's this, she's that, whatever. But at the end of the day, I made a choice to marry her. I made a choice to have children with her. That's on me. And I also made a choice to do things in our marriage that ultimately led to its demise. That's also on me. Not saying she didn't bring things to the table, but I have to take extreme ownership of the fact that I am now divorced for a second time. But in today's video, he's actually giving dating advice. And we're going to analyze what he says and decide whether or not it's solid advice or not. So let's get right into it and take a look at his video. I'm going to pause it every once in a while and add my own commentary. But let's dive in.
Don't get your expectations too high.
Yeah.
Which is what we have to watch out for, because we meet, Jessica.
Yeah, Jessica.
And she's good looking and she's nice to you. And so you take that trajectory of the first two data points that are both pointing up, and you just turn that into freaking an angel.
I will say, and if you're not familiar with Jocko, that's Jocko right there, not the other gentleman that he's bantering with. But I will say that as guys, we are extremely visual creatures, and we do have a tendency, as they say, to rush to the altar. We see an attractive woman, we immediately start thinking about a future with her, especially if she's nice to us back. We really don't know anything about her, but we're already planning this future trajectory, as he calls it. We're planning that. We're making up kids' names, and we're talking about where we're going to get married, and all of this is going through our head in a very short time, typically. This is how a lot of guys operate. So he's right on the money here. Let's keep going.
With a future, with kids, like the whole 9 yards. Yeah. You have two data points. Yeah. One, she's cute. Two, she's nice to you at that moment. And you take those two data points and run freaking buck wild, thinking that this is it. This is the one. Do not do that. Gather more data. You observe. If you're walking up to a cave and you thought there was a lion in there, right? Are you and you want to gather some data? Like you see let's see you see some lion scat outside, right?
Sure. Hell yeah.
Let's see you see some lion prints outside. You got two data points. Yeah. Seems like there's a lion in there. Yeah. Do you go running into the cave looking for the lion? No, you don't. So let's not do that here.
I'm pretty sure he just compared women to a lion, which is kind of funny. But he's still right on the money. He's still using that metaphor. He's still saying that we tend to make, as guys, we tend to make decisions, romantic decisions, with very little data. That's his overall point, and I do think he's right on the money.
Let's stay outside the cave. Gather more data points without running into the cave is my recommendation. Here's another thing, and this is kind of along the same lines. People aren't who you want them to be. They are who they are.
I want to stop it there too, because that's crucial, that point right there. As guys, we often tend to project our level of attraction onto a woman that we like and that we want to be in a relationship with. We ignore sometimes that their attraction for us is actually quite a bit lower than our attraction for them.
You can't confuse those things. And you can't think that you're going to take someone who is the way they are and change them into who you want them to be.
That is another crucial point, and I think men and women alike do this. We see somebody, we're attracted to them, we get into a relationship with them, and then all of a sudden the things that attracted us to them, we want to somehow change. I have a really good friend. He's now divorced. You know, his wife was drawn to him. He's kind of a bad boy, type A, macho kind of guy, a man's man for sure. And his wife was definitely attracted to those qualities when they were dating. And then once they got married, she was always nagging him to be something else, to be, you know, nicer and gentler and more communicative and more emotive and things like that. And that's just not him. That's not who he is. It's never going to be who he is. And she made their lives miserable. I'm not saying he didn't do things also to damage their marriage, but she was always on him to change who he was. And I think men do this too. We have to learn to accept our partners for exactly who they are. It doesn't mean they're not capable of growth and change. They absolutely are. It doesn't mean that we can't try and motivate them or inspire them to grow and change. But when we try and force it or guilt them into it or nag them into it, that is a recipe for disaster.
Now, how do we not get hurt? I'll tell you how you don't get hurt. When you stay outside collecting data points, you don't overcommit. Or the lioness comes out with its mouth dripping with blood and you see it from 200 yards away through your binoculars, you go, oh, cool. Good to see that. Now I didn't lose my larynx.
And I think, you know, amongst the metaphor there, the real key there that he said is don't overcommit. And I think what he's really saying is don't overcommit too quickly, too early, before you have enough information about the woman that you're interested in. Take things slow. As guys, like I said earlier, we tend to rush to the altar. I want you to take things slowly. Always operate just a little bit slower than she's operating with you. So you don't want to be constantly rushing and pushing and, you know, clinging, because that's going to seem needy and desperate and ultimately could push her away. But don't overcommit too early.
When you get more data and you realize that someone isn't who you thought they were, you go, oh, cool. I'm glad I didn't invest a bunch of time, money, commitment, effort into this relationship when all that would have happened is I would have gotten my heart ripped out and eaten.
And that's another good point too. And that's why I do actually recommend in the early stages of seeing people, I do actually recommend dating multiple people at the same time. It takes about 90 days before you really start to see the true aspects of someone's personality. If you overcommit too quickly, you risk getting into a committed relationship with someone that you don't really know yet. So take your time and really get to know them, and then make an informed decision if you're going to take that relationship to the next level.
Walk away, don't look back. Don't be a jerk about it, but say, hey, Jessica, it was awesome to know you. I really appreciate it. Look, I'll see you out sometime. Then walk away and don't look back. What we do is we look back. What we do is not we just look back. We start walking back. We crawl back. We see if they're looking. We try and get their attention. It's a freaking disaster. Walk away, don't look back.
I think that's crucial also, because when we aren't congruent with our words, if we say, you know what, Jessica, this just isn't quite working out. I wish you all the best, but I'm going to continue to date and see what's out there and see if I can find something more in line with my goals. I hope you find what you're looking for as well. When we say that, and then 2 days later, we're kind of lonely or horny or whatever, and we start texting them late at night, we seem weak and needy and desperate because we're not congruent with our own words. We have to stick with what we say, because that's what being a man is all about. It's committing. It's about being true to our word, no matter what, and honoring that and staying true to that commitment.
I'm kind of talking from the male perspective, because I'm a male. And as I was wondering, like, well, you know, what's different for, it's actually not. I don't think it's any different. A woman should do the same thing. Look, if the relationship is worth it and it's meant to be, and I hate to say that because it sounds super cheesy, but if it's meant to be, you'll be good.
Having said all that, I actually do think men and women operate very differently with regards to relationships. Of course, there are always exceptions, and there will be guys who are more in their feminine or women who are more in their masculine. But generally speaking, at the risk of stereotyping, men who are in their masculine do tend to kind of rush things, can be a little bit needy or clingy, whereas women do tend to take things more slowly and gather more data points, using his analogy again, before they make a fully committed decision. So I do think there are some key differences there that he didn't quite address right there.
A lot of Navy SEALs, they get a bunch of data points, and a lot of them are red red flags. But they seem to just, bypass those red flags and just look at maybe the one or two good data points or whatever, and then they base the future on that or whatever.
I do think that's a really good point, and I do think guys do tend to do that. Like if the woman is really super hot or if she's really good in bed, we do tend to ignore other red flags, and we use logic and reason to kind of justify why we can ignore the red flags and why we can put all of our eggs in the positive baskets that we're seeing. And I do think guys tend to do that. I don't know if women do that, but I do think guys definitely tend to do that.
Here's a good addition to my comment. Gather more data points and read them. Because you're right. I've seen some of my friends mega red flag data points. There's one awesome data point, which is, oh, she's beautiful. That's the data point. The other data point is she's psychotic. She is an alcoholic. She is from an insane background. Her environment is crazy. And what's the guy think? Dude, I'm going to marry her.
Oh, yeah, exciting. You meet a hot girl and they're impressed that you're a Navy SEAL, and kind of a big deal. Guys with jobs that they like, regardless of SEAL, not SEAL. You can go, you're, I don't know, stockbroker, and someone's impressed with that. Oh, you kind of want to get a, you want to be around that little environment, right? Of course, I love being a Navy SEAL. And I go and I come across one of these groups and I see one of the hottest one in the group, and she's impressed with my impressive job, and she's letting me know. That's a point of pleasure for me.
So we have a data point.
One of the many. Yes, sir. A very pleasurable,
data
positive.
A data point that gets calculated within 20 seconds.
And I think that point right there is crucial also, because when we're talking about visual data points, again, to use their terminology, visual data points do add up instantly, whereas learning about someone's character, do they have integrity? Did they have a good upbringing? Do they, in the case of a woman, do they have a good relationship with their father? Because those things all have a significant impact on their ability to be a good partner for you. And those data points don't get collected very quickly. The visual ones do. So we have to take our time and do things slowly in order to get a balanced set of data points.
I think I really kind of summed it up. It's like, go slow, man. Don't overcommit, right? Go slow. Get crazy. And to your point, which is difficult, is like, you're like, that kind of ruins it. No, dude. She's not so great. She might be, but just take it easy, dude.
The better it can be, the worse it can be. And then if you dumb it down to like, hey, I'm going to take my time and detach and be like less emotional or whatever, like, don't you kind of put a limit on the goodness of it?
Yeah,
you know?
maybe.
Because it's like you're out at sea at a storm, in a storm, and you want to catch some of those big waves when you're out there, but you want to be safe when you're out. You don't want to get smashed and drowned either.
True.
So it's like this weird balancing act.
And I will say he's got some good points there as well, because to a degree, as guys, we are drawn to a certain level of excitement. We don't want a woman who is boring and monotone and totally even keeled. So we do want some of that drama and that excitement, but we don't want too much of that, because then the relationship, if it's going to be a relationship, can become totally unstable and chaotic and get too out of hand. And if we dive into that relationship too quickly, we don't know if it has the potential to go there or not. So we do kind of have to, like, we don't want to go so slowly that we kill the momentum and then we kill the excitement, but we don't want to go too quickly that we don't see some of the red flags that could come up if we were a little more observant and a little less quick to rush to the altar.
Big one too is people, they try to force stuff too. This person indicated their age like around 30, right? Where that's kind of the time, right? Where people are starting to be like, oh, I'm not in a relationship, all this stuff. And then they start actively searching for a future husband, wife.
Bad move.
That's what I'm saying.
Just actively searching is a bad sign, and people can smell intent, and now you're on the whole totally wrong path. Don't do that. Yeah, we should have. That's a good catch.
And that right there speaks to what's called a scarcity mindset. So if you are desperate for a relationship because you feel like your biological clock is ticking or whatever, and you're not in the relationship of your dreams yet, and you're desperate to find that, you're coming at it from a scarcity mindset. You're looking at it from a state of lack. This is something that I need, that I must have, that I don't have. That basically smells of desperation, and you're being driven basically by fear of, well, what happens if I don't find this person and I'm destined to spend my life alone like the Incredible Hulk. So you don't want to come at it from a place of fear or scarcity. You just sort of want to let it happen naturally. And so the key is to focus on being the best version of you that you can be. That be happy being alone. Be happy with the things that bring you joy. And then you will naturally find and be drawn to people who are also happy with themselves and happy in their lives. Then it's two whole and complete people coming together instead of a codependent mess.
Yeah, so don't force that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Don't be like, hey, let's meet my parents on like the second date or
Yeah,
whatever.
and
You know,
the
like
good
that kind
thing
of
is
stuff.
everything we're saying is in support of that. If you're out going into the cave, they are like, what are you doing in my cave right now?
know,
What are you doing, bro? Rolling into the cave? No.
Yeah.
So don't go, sit back. Use your binos, your binoculars. Look at from a distance. Stay away. By the way, guess what's going to happen? They're going to come out looking for you because they're interested.
Yeah.
And now you have a little bit of a better advantage, right? You're not looking stupid.
Anyway, I think that was a great video, a great conversation. Not surprisingly, he's very insightful and pretty much right on the money as far as his dating advice goes. I encourage you to subscribe to his podcast, whether you use a podcast player or on YouTube, which is where this video is from. I'm going to link to both in the description down below, because if you're not familiar with Jocko Willink, you definitely should be. But for now, I'll see you in the next video.